Welcome to the Redirect Podcast. My name is Abigail Hewins.
And I'm Emily Rojas. The Redirect Podcast is a show where we shift the conversation back to books. We discuss themes from some of our favorite fictional books and how those themes show up in real lived experiences.
On today's episode, we'll be taking the trip back in time to reconsider one of our favorite childhood books, The Little House on the Prairie.
But first, if you've been enjoying the podcast, we'd like to humbly ask that you support us in 3 simple ways. You can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you listen to podcasts and let us know you're loving the show.
We'd also love for you to follow us on Instagram at Redirect Podcast. And finally, if you really, really like the show, we'd love for you to share it with a friend. Sharing it with a friend is the best way to help us grow our little community of book-loving nerds. And we'd love to bring more people into the fold.
Exactly.
Yay. So, Emily, what's up? How's it going? Are you excited about today's episode?
I am something about today's episode.
Nervous?
I am nervous. Not to spoil anything we're about to talk about, but this book was not what I remembered it being. And that was
It didn't quite age as well.
No, it was a bit jarring, to be honest, because I did love these books and the TV series as a young kid. So, yeah, I'm feeling precautious.
Okay. Great. Well, that's a good way to be. So background on Little House on the Prairie. Most people are familiar with Little House on the Prairie in some way, whether they watched the 1970s TV show or they read some of the books or read all of the books, or if they just know the name Laura Ingalls Wilder. Obviously, the Little House series was written by Laura Ingalls Wilder, and it's an autobiographical account of Laura Ingalls' childhood and her family's pioneer lifestyle. So in my research about this book, I found that it is autobiographical, but some parts are pretty heavily fictionalized or glossed over. They're children's books.
Sure.
So
it's from the perspective of a very young child, so that makes kind of sense.
Yes, and like many pieces of classic literature, there are some really problematic things that rise up in this book.
If you were going to gloss over some things, you could have glossed over some other things as well that were very much not glossed over.
Like, for instance, I just know that Laura and Mary woke up in their one-room cabin some night and Ma and Pa were getting freaky. She chose to gloss over that, but she did not choose to gloss over the extreme anti-Indigenous sentiments in the book. Mm-hmm. So, Little House on the Prairie is the third series in the book. It's the third book in the series. The first couple are about her life in Wisconsin. Who cares?
Who cares? No, because when you think about these books, you think Little House on the Prairie. Like, this is the one that I think when I read I don't know, I was a little kid, but when I first read them, I feel like I started at Little House on the Prairie and then maybe later on went back and read like the first 2 books, but I feel like this is where the interesting part really starts. Although I wouldn't say it was that interesting, but I guess if you're, 6 or something, it's kind of interesting.
If you're a kid, yeah. Interesting. I think they're children's books, so they stand alone. You could probably pick anyone and not really need to have a lot of information about what happened in the previous books. So like I mentioned, Little House on the Prairie, the most famous of the books, was adapted into a TV series in the 1970s. Mm-hmm. I'm most familiar with this because the guy who plays Pa in that show is really hot. It's the same.
But of course.
I don't know. But
you're not
you
lying.
Guys know
He
what
is. I'm looking at the pictures.
He is kind of sexy. Yeah, he's got that. I don't imagine that the real Pa was that attractive or that charismatic. No. But again, we'll get into it. Yeah. So let's see. The book starts and the Ingalls family is leaving Wisconsin. So if you didn't read the first book, basically they're in Wisconsin and and Emily, what happens? Pa just says,
"We're going.
All right, guys, we're packing up."
Yeah. Essentially.
Do you recall the reason in the book that Pa said that they should leave Wisconsin?
He was like, there's too many people here. I want to be out in the wide open spaces of unsettled land and settle my land. I just assume they have some kind of accent like that. But, I guess Wisconsin's not really the South. But yeah, he's like, there's too many freaking people here. Let's go and never see anyone we know ever again.
Okay, that's what he says.
Uh-huh.
That is half true. In the
Mm,
real account of her life, Charles Ingalls was running from his many debtors.
that makes a lot of sense.
His debtors were coming to collect his horses
Mm,
and to like repossess his house and things like that. And they were kind of faced with the decision of like, all right, we either give up Mary and Laura for adoption, or we just like get the hell out of Dodge.
yeah, that actually tracks because I've read several other memoirs about people who grew up with dads who were constantly like, let's just get the heck out of here. And that tracks with the personalities of those fathers as well. So shouldn't really be surprised. Because
Yeah.
let me just give you a preview of the end of this book. They do the same thing again.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. One thing, and we'll get to this,
yes.
but the whole time I'm like, okay, if this was an adult book,
Mm,
I want to
it would be
know what
different.
kind of mental illness Pa has.
Yes.
Like, what kind of diagnosis he needs, because the fact that he puts his family through this. Okay. So they pack up the wagon, they say goodbye to grandparents, and like the crazy part is like they realize like back then, if you're like gonna get on a wagon and travel west, like you're basically saying goodbye to your family forever.
And they won't know like if you live or die, if you settle somewhere, how your life turns out. Yeah, it is goodbye forever. So, real bummer. This whole book, honestly, this is where it begins and it continues through the rest of this book. I'm like, people who say they wish they were born in like the olden days, I cannot relate. This life sounds horrible. They can't even send a letter because, like, maybe they can once they get close enough to town, but like, no, this whole thing
But
is a
then
no for
when you
me.
send the letter, it takes like 3 months to get to the person you sent it to. And by the time it gets to them, so much has happened.
Yeah, yeah.
I was thinking about this, though this is off topic, but I recently read How to Stop Time by
Mm,
Matt Haig.
hmm.
And in part of the book, the main character is living in the Middle Ages. And during that time, they only drank ale, including children, because it was all of the water was like dirty.
Yeah.
So if you drank any water, you'd probably get
Hmm.
dysentery and die.
Hmm.
So we just had a bunch of kids running around drinking beer
That's cool.
because it was like,
Yeah. Honestly, thank God we live in this age. I'm really happy about it. As dire as it can be sometimes, like
yeah,
I have amenities, I have
at least I can
AC,
flush my toilet.
yes, running water. It's really we're
Come
lucky.
on.
Yeah. You can move you're living in LA, I'm living in Chattanooga, and we can just
And we're having a
talk. I'm
conversation.
not like,
Ugh,
well, I hope Abigail's still alive out there, so,
right?
which is what happened to them.
Anyways, so they set out on this journey. And so she, I'm going to describe this because she spends a lot of time describing this. They're in a wagon. Ma and Pa are in the front. Mary and Laura are kind of sitting in the back. And then the baby,
Baby
there's a
Carrie.
baby, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, baby Carrie is like kind of just lying there or whatever. And Jack, their dog, is forced to run under the wagon.
Yeah. Just trotting along. Yeah.
I
Again, dogs should also be happy that they live in this modern era because let me tell you,
He
this
was
dog was not
forced
treated
to
well.
walk?
Yeah.
He was not treated well. He was not.
Yeah.
I am calling the ASPC on these people
Yes.
retroactively. They had to walk, Jack had to walk from Wisconsin to Kansas.
Yes.
And that's not the worst thing that happens to
No.
him. Because pretty soon after they depart, they're crossing a river and they don't even think, okay, let's let Jack get up in the wagon while we cross the river.
No.
They're just like, he'll get
He'll
fine.
make it. Yeah.
And Jack is described as being like a terrier.
Mhm.
Like probably
He's not like
like
a big dog. Yeah.
like a small
Mid-size.
sized pit bull.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
So they cross the river, and then they're just like, oh, I guess Jack didn't make it.
Yeah. Like the girls are kind of sad, but mom and pa are like, well, that's life, I guess. Which I guess it is, you know? That is life.
But it is life, but like you could have just put the dog in the wagon.
Yes. Like no one was even worried about him. Whatever. It's a very dramatic crossing. Like the creek rises very suddenly. So then Pa has to like get the horses across and the girls are like, oh my God. And then Jack's just RIP, I guess.
Bye, Jack.
Bye.
And then this is like this is where I just started to really hate Pa and Ma. Both of
Honestly,
them.
Ma, again, are we misogynists on this podcast? I don't know.
No.
Because we seem to hate a lot of women, but Ma sucks. Ma
I hate poorly written
straight up
women.
sucks.
And Ma has
Yeah.
no texture.
No.
And she's
Her
just
only
so
personality trait
pessimistic.
is hating Native Americans. So I just want to make that clear.
She hates Native Americans, and that's basically all she says.
Yeah.
Besides like really horrible things about Native Americans, she just doesn't say anything unless it's complaining.
Yeah.
So they cross, and then Ma and Pa are like, well, too bad we won't have a dog to protect us.
Yeah.
That's what you're concerned about? You just killed an animal for no reason.
No reason. You could have just put him in the wagon. He would have been alive.
But then they cross, and they're just like, the girls are sad, whatever, but they're like, all right, let's just keep going. Here's what they're eating. She describes their diet in detail. Salted meat. So I'm assuming that's like jerky or just preserved
That's what I was thinking.
meat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hot grains and oatmeal with no seasoning. Nothing with seasoning. There's no salt.
That hadn't arrived yet.
There's no fresh herbs. And molasses and bread.
A lot.
Molasses and bread is a big part of the diet. Later in this episode, we will be taste testing molasses and bread.
Not optimistic about our odds of enjoyment.
But when I look at I have my thing of molasses in front of me. I'm trying to see if there's any vitamins in this. There's some magnesium.
Not a lot.
There's a little bit of calcium. There's no protein. The point of me saying this, how do they not get scurvy? They have nary a vegetable.
No vegetables until much later.
Nary a fruit.
No fruit. No. Honestly, though, the salted meat and the like cornmeal cakes Ma was frying up, that did sound like it probably was pretty good. You know, like some salted pork meat and then some griddle cakes. That could be okay. But everything else, no, not interested.
Right.
But I guess that's what you have to do if you're freaking driving. Like, you don't know how long you're going to be out there. You can't have anything that's going to go bad, you know?
No refrigerators, no ice, no Yeti cooler, nothing.
Yeah.
You're just out on the... And then, also, you don't see anybody.
No.
Like, your wagon wheel breaks down.
By yourself.
You're stuck.
Yeah.
Guess you're dead. Anyways. Then we have a plot twist. Jack is alive.
This was so underplayed in the book. I was like, this plot could be a book by itself. A dog that you think is drowned and then it finds its way back to you. But they're just really chill about it. They're like, oh my God, I guess he made it across and he found us. I'm like, I would not, if I was Jack, I would not be coming back for y'all because you left me to die in this river. But he came back for them.
And guess what his reward is? His reward is that he has to hunt for his own dinner. And then sleep outside and continue to walk under the wagon.
Yes.
They learn nothing.
They do not care
Jack
about
has to continue running under the wagon. There's no reward for this. This is like in Homeward Bound when Shadow comes back and everyone's like shaking, crying, convulsing.
Yeah, they're like,
up.
oh my God, no way. Okay,
anyways. That's crazy. Anyway, I hate them. I hate them so much.
Yeah.
Oh, they suck. Okay. So they just keep going on. Jack is with them now. They're eating bland food. And then they just pull up by a creek and they're like, this is ours.
This is good, yeah.
They just say, we belong. This is us. We own it now.
Yeah. They're like, oh, there is this like Native American campsite right up here. And this is their actual road that they use to travel. But don't worry. Like, it's going to be fine.
It's ours.
This is ours. We're here to settle the land. This is their whole like justification, which I'm sure is true for the time. But their whole justification was I just want to say they also do not say Native Americans or indigenous people.
They say Indians.
They definitely say Indians. And they describe them as having black snake-like eyes. Also, Laura is like obsessed with seeing a baby Native American, which she calls a papoose, which I had to Google. That's a very outdated word. I just want to, don't probably use that to describe a human being, but she's like, Pa, where's the papoose? It's like...
It's giving tokenizing little babies that are black.
And then, at the end, she sees one finally, and she's like, Pa, I want that papoose. It wants to stay with me. And Pa's like, the mom wants to keep the baby. And she's like, no, it is insane. Because it's like, Laura Ingalls, you're an adult writing this book. You have to know that you didn't have to include that anecdote. Anyways, enough of that.
I mean, look, I had this later on in our outline, but we can just talk about it now. So there's multiple things that happen. Like, they call the land uninhabited. They just claim this Native American territory as their own. All the stuff about tokenizing little Native American babies. They say really horrible things like, and big trigger warning here if you don't want to hear some like hateful speech, but there's They say there are no people, only
Yep.
Indians. The only good Indian is a dead
They say
Indian.
that often.
And they're like, anytime they see a Native American, they like freak out and like run into the house.
They're
Like,
scared. Yeah.
it's
The way their language is described, the way their physical attributes are described, it is like the most dehumanizing. Like, I think
it's
at multiple
horrible.
times they're called like it, or like, its hair was like this, and it's like, this is not great. And I
Of
don't
person.
remember any of this. Like, I felt so
I
stupid because I'm
know.
like, when I suggested this, I did not expect it to turn. I thought maybe there'd be, a couple things. It's a really old book, but I did not expect it. Like, this is not a book I would read to my children because there's no salvaging it. Like, half the book is stuff like this. You know what I mean? Like, there's not like one line where you can be like, okay, well, we don't talk like that anymore, but maybe back in the day. No, it is like the main antagonists of this book are the native people who already lived there when Pa just showed up. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah.
And like the only thing I
So,
remembered, sorry, about this book, like
yeah.
I remembered the food a little, and I remembered children should be seen and not heard, which they say a lot.
Oh, yeah. We're glossing over that. Just like, if Mary or Laura dared to say anything, like it was like, oh, don't talk unless you're spoken to.
Yeah. So I remember that, but it's just crazy, like the things I guess you don't think much about when you're like 8 reading a book. Unfortunately, when you get older, you can read it and you're like, this is actually terrible. Like maybe we
So
shouldn't like
that's
this.
actually a good conversation that I wanted to have about this. Obviously, a lot of old books that we learn in school and whatever have a lot of racist stuff in them. Does that mean we shouldn't read them? Or does that mean we should read them with proper historical context and like be asked to like evaluate them? Because if we read them, sure, it's teaching, it's helping, it's like making some people that may not have been aware of racist attitudes, it's making them aware of racist attitudes. But at the same time, if we pretend it didn't happen, then we're erasing our racist history.
Yeah, I feel like with a situation like this, there's probably better books out there.
Yeah.
Like for this, because it is the reading level of these books is like you just started reading non-picture books. So that's a different age for every kid, obviously, but it's early elementary. It's very simple. There's pictures, on a lot of the pages. Maybe late elementary, but still elementary. So I wouldn't think this is the way to talk to your kids about some stuff, especially with like Indigenous people, because I don't feel like that history is very taught of the horrible, horrible things we've done.
It is not.
So I feel like there's probably a better place to start than this book. I don't think all books that's the case. Like I definitely think there's stuff we can learn, obviously, from reading things that we're like, we don't believe in that anymore. But this book, I don't think and it's like so insidiously written because it's very chill. It's just like low key in there. Like I said, like the dehumanization and stuff. It's not like a big deal's made out of it. It's just like, yeah, well, we hate these guys because they're scary and they are like presented as the big bad of this book. They're scared they're going to come in and murder them. They hear their war cries and they're like shaking in their sleep. Pa has to stay up all night making sure they don't come in. And so I don't know. I just don't think this is the book. I don't think, I feel like that for every book, but for this one in particular, I probably wouldn't want my young children to read it.
Yeah.
Without any context,
So, yeah, I think the context is hugely important. I made a note. What would Ron DeSantis think about this book? Because it's like, for people who, like, no, but genuinely, like, for people who are against teaching of quote unquote critical race theory, which is a legal scholar thing. It does not have to do with Little House on the Prairie, but it's like, do you think you shouldn't have books that have racist stuff in them, or you just shouldn't teach that it's racist? It's just an interesting conversation. I think where I land on it is like, yeah, there are better places to start with the education of it, but I think kids can read this with the proper instruction of like, this is a real way that people used to talk about it, and this is how and used to treat Native Americans, and this is why you see X, X, and X today.
Yeah.
Like, we're still living through the byproduct of that. But without that piece,
It's a no.
Yeah.
And that's why it said, like, if they are really young and they're not ready to have those kind of conversations, then I probably wouldn't let them read this book because it is so involved. But if they were old enough where they were like, oh, I could have this conversation, then it would be like, okay, like, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
You know?
I read an interesting article by Roxane Gay, who is she's a Black queer fat author and like thinker. Her books include Bad Feminist and Hunger, and I think a few more. Those are the two I've read. But she wrote an article about the books that made her, and this book made it on the list. Little House on the Prairie books. She said that they really like made her who she was, and like she enjoyed reading them when she was a kid. And for her, it took her a long time for her to realize like some of the bad things that were in them.
Yeah.
But that, like, she kind of holds the same opinion of, like, we should not read them. Just because there's bad things doesn't mean the whole book is bad, but it can teach us something about who we should be, so.
And I think it is, like, I mean, obviously it is an autobiographical, semi-autobiographical account, so there is something to that. It is, like, how people actually felt, and I think if you look at it through that lens, it is like, okay, like, now we can see this is horrible, but she was just presenting it as if it was how things were, and so it does kind of teach you a lot.
Would it be better or worse if she had sanitized this out of it and just said, like, we settled on this land and we respected the Native Americans when they clearly didn't?
I mean, it would have made reading it a little bit
It would have made reading it a little better, but the lesson that it would teach us about history
so I think
would
it's
be
fair,
like, yeah.
And
Anyways.
I think she actually did, I mean, we can talk about this later. I don't know if you have it, but I think she did kind of try because, you know, where Ma is extremely antagonistic with the Native people, Pa is kind of like, well, they live here, like, you know, the government's going to kick them out, but this is their home, and, you know, they're not that bad, they're not going to hurt us or whatever, you know, like, he's a little, I think she was trying to, like, Pa is supposed to represent this more, like, progressive thinking, but even his ideas are, like, not the best.
Yeah, he's supposed to be, like, the, you know, model of character in the book, and he's just more like, this is our land, we'll leave them alone. They're going to leave us alone, but he still sold their land. Anyway, going back, speaking of their land, they find this piece of land by the creek. They just say it's theirs. They start building a house. The house is bleak. There's no windows.
I know. That was so depressing. I'm like, not only is there no windows, but there's no electricity. So, like, how dim is it in there? No wonder Mary goes blind later. You know, that's spoiled for the rest of the series, but she freaking goes blind. So I'm thinking I see why.
Right. It's bleak. But one thing I really loved about this part of the book, and like talking about building the house and whatever, all this stuff, is that the girls just got to play like boys get to play.
Yeah.
And they just got to, like, away from society and like organized whatever. She just got to like be who she was, and they got to explore and be free and run around barefoot. And I really love that.
It made me kind of sad too, thinking about all the animals that we've, you know, displaced over the growth of America, because they're just like out there, and there's like wolves and buffalo and rabbits and deer.
It's like Yellowstone.
Yes.
But just everywhere.
It is beautiful. Like, there's just an abundance of nature and animals, and it's like, wow, what a bummer, you know? That sounds kind of nice. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be in this time, but it does sound, I wish we had, you know, maybe displaced so many people and animals in the... Yeah,
the air is so clean.
Yeah.
It's so quiet, you know.
They literally don't see anyone for a long time. They eventually meet neighbors, but they're like a day's walk away.
I was just thinking, like, in the context of my own family, what would it be like to just not have any other friends?
I was thinking about that as well.
Hang out with your family. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't even conceive of that.
Yeah. Like, all you have to do all day is just build your own house and try to survive and play
and, like,
around.
wash your clothes.
Yes.
And, like, it's crazy. It's crazy. So, eventually they find a watermelon growing. No, for the audio, Emily just rolled her eyes. They find a watermelon, they eat it, and then they all get really sick, and they think the watermelon caused it.
This was a harrowing story, because basically the whole family gets malaria and is like about to die, and then this random doctor happens to walk into their home and saves their lives.
And this is another problematic thing.
Yeah.
The doctor's black, and they're like, he was a good black man.
Yeah.
Like, oh
It's tough.
Oh my God.
Like, he literally saved your life. You're like, well, that's one of the good ones.
Jesus. Oh my God. I'm trying to find something redeeming in this,
Laura,
but you guys are just
you're killing me, Laura.
Laura. So they don't die, but then they're like, watermelon's bad.
Yeah.
Which probably doesn't help their like long-term health outlook.
Yeah, Ma's like, you guys are not. The dad actually is like, oh my God, I haven't had watermelon since I was a little kid. And he goes and eats a whole entire watermelon by himself. And Ma is like, you kids are not eating that watermelon. It's gonna give you, you're gonna get sick again. It's just like, also you want to go back in time and be like, hey, I want to tell you guys about germ theory, disease. This is not how it works. These are the mosquitoes cause this, but they obviously did not have that understanding yet.
They did not. So then Christmas rolls around. By this time, they have windows and they have a neighbor. They have one window?
Yes. Pa somehow found money to buy enough glass for one window.
So I'm going to guess who got the window. Pa and Ma.
Yeah,
on their side of this.
Yeah, because let's go back. When he builds the beds, he builds a bed for himself and Ma, and then the girls are sleeping on the ground. He's like, "Don't worry, I'll get to y'all's bed." They're like 6 and 8 or something. Like, they're little kids. You couldn't have built them a bed first. You guys are sick.
To be fair, they don't have bad backs yet.
That's true. That's true. They are children. But I was just like, oh, okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, no, kids are totally irrelevant, especially little girls.
Yeah.
So,
Christmas.
Anyways, Christmas comes, and they're like, is Santa gonna come? And they're like, I don't know, maybe.
This made me wonder, actually, when did we start thinking of Santa as flying in a sleigh? Because they were concerned that Santa wouldn't be able to cross the river to make it to their house.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering.
Let me do a quick Google search of that.
Now I would think, obviously, a river is not going to stop Santa, but they were like, Santa can't make it across that river. We're going to not get our presents this year. So I just didn't know if that has changed over time or...
Okay, since the early 19th century, but that would have been then.
Maybe they just hadn't got it yet.
Old St. Nick had been using a sleigh and reindeer to deliver his presents. By the 1890s, some Americans thought an automobile would be a more modern form of transportation for the jolly old man. When did Santa start to fly? I don't know.
Interesting. So he hasn't always flown, is what I'm learning, though. Because they definitely did not think he could fly.
Yeah, or, I don't know. Every family has their own Santa theory.
That's true. Maybe it was just
this
them.
is just something that they taught. So, they go to bed, they wake up, and Santa came, and their stockings are full. And Emily, what was in there? What was their bounty?
They got a stick of peppermint, a little, like, heart-shaped cake-like thing, but it didn't have white sugar on top. Yes, but not on top. So they were very like, okay, but the white sugar was a big deal. Again, they were eating molasses. A shiny penny, which was like the most mind-blowing thing in the world to them.
They said, and I quote, "Imagine having a whole penny of your very own," unquote.
Yes, and then a little cup as well. They were so happy about this. And the adults were all crying. Like, they were like, they got to have a real Christmas, I guess, is what they were crying about, but... Their neighbor ended up saving Christmas for them, basically.
The tin cup was so big because they could drink out of their own cup. They had been using a communal cup.
Yes.
Oh, it's bleak.
It is bleak. It is bleak. Man. I don't want to live in this time. At all.
Do not.
No.
I want to get my little chapsticks and all my
Reese's
little
cups
in my stocking.
Yes.
And then the little heart-shaped cake that they get that's made of white sugar, they don't even eat it because they're like, it's so beautiful and it's so special. I don't want to eat it. I just want to look at it. So they won't even eat it. But yeah, wow. So,
I want to do a new trend. Like, let's make this a trend on TikTok. For if you have kids, put them in their stocking, a tin cup, a penny, a small cake, and a peppermint stick, and see their reaction.
Yes. Like the Jimmy Kimmel Halloween thing.
Yes, I want you to try that with your kids this Christmas.
It's like the avocado kid.
Yeah.
But anyways, and then there's a line that says, "But Mary and Laura looked at their beautiful cakes, and played with their pennies, and drank water out of their new cups. Merry Christmas."
Yeah.
All right.
Beautiful.
So, basically, what happens at the end of the book?
The end of the book, actually, to me, I want it to be a separate book, and I want it to be from the indigenous people's perspective, because...
That's what I put in here?
It is like the most insane scene. Like, I would like to do more research about this, if this is all a true story or what actually happened. But basically, all of the native people are gathering really close to their homestead, and they're like, we are going to kill all the white settlers. We're going to murder them all. We're going to massacre them. Which I'm like, you should have gone, maybe you should have done that. But anyways, I digress. Don't do that. Massacres are bad. But anyways, like, if you guys only knew what was about to come for you, you know. Anyway, so this one chief of the Osage, I think that's how you say it, tribe, rides in and basically pleads with them all night to spare the settlers. And he gathers the Osage tribe, which was one of the tribes that had come together. And they're all like, if you guys attack them, we will fight against you. Even though there was like, it's kind of referenced a few times in the book that they had this kind of intertribal peaceful agreement that they wouldn't fight against each other. But the Osage tribe stood up and basically saved all of their lives and was like, we will fight with them if you choose to do this. And so then all the native people kind of leave at the very end of the book, and this great warrior chief is leading the way as they move on to another place. I was like, that is the story here. Like, that is insane.
I have a note about this, about what I would want to see if this was an adult book.
Yes.
But at the end of the book, like, the government is basically like, oh, you can't actually settle here. This is going to be Indian territory. Like, we've brokered a deal. And the whole book paused when saying the Indians are going to have to leave.
Yes.
But then they're like, no, you actually have to leave. And so they're just like, this is stupid. I don't want to. Basically, he's getting scared that he's going to have to pay taxes or he's going to be found out or whatever. So they just pack up again, and then they
leave their house that they have spent the entire book building. And go on again.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into it. If this was an adult book,
yes,
I want to know what happened to Pa in his past that is adding up to this lifestyle where he's constantly on the run.
Yes.
He has money problems. Like, he's got a lot of stuff that he's running from.
Yes.
I want a backstory.
Yes. Have you ever read the book The Glass Castle? It's a memoir. I recommend it, but Pa reminds me so much of the dad in that he's constantly, like, he's kind of like very charismatic and lovable, but a lot of dark side, and constantly is moving the family, running from something, and it's kind of just like a chaotic childhood. But this is presented very idealistically, I think. And
they're going on an adventure.
That, I think, is the modern day version of Pa, because it is like, you can't just let your like, you guys actually, if you hadn't had money problems, apparently, you could have just lived with your family in Wisconsin. You seem to have a good life there, like, none of this had to happen.
He reminds me of The Dad in The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna, who is like, we just need to get out. Like, that's the solution to their problems. It's just like, anytime you feel uncomfortable or unhappy or whatever, it's just, you got to move on.
Yeah.
Like, you're having problems with your family, you just need a new start.
Yeah.
Like, anytime that there's any problem, the solution is to move away. So I want that in my adult version.
I want some more texture to Pa.
I also want to know, I want a version where half the chapters are from a Native American child's perspective.
Yes.
Or a Native American person's adult's perspective.
I agree.
Of, like, seeing the Ingalls family.
Especially that ending, like I said, she just casually throws it out there. But it was such a dramatic story. I'm like, that would be way more interesting from their perspective than yours, Laura.
I also was like, if this is an adult book, we could maybe have, like, a side romance plot. Maybe, like, marital troubles between Ma and Pa.
Yeah.
Or maybe, like, I don't know, between a Native American child and one of the Ingalls girls. Or maybe, like, the neighbor, I forget what the neighbor's name is, but, like, maybe Scott and, like, a Native American woman.
Oh, speaking of neighbors, though, I also, if this was an adult book, I wrote this down because they just casually throw this out there, and I was like, I'm sure I'm reading too much into this. But down the road, there was 2 bachelor men sharing a house, and she went to great lengths to describe the sleeping situation. So I was like, interesting, 2 bachelor men sharing a home.
Interesting. How about, this is a reminder
sharing a life.
That gay people have always existed.
So I would like to know more about them in the adult version of this book, because I was very interested in that little throwaway line.
They were roommates.
And they were roommates.
And they were roommates.
Oh my God, they were roommates.
But yeah, I would love an adult fictionalized version of this story because I think it could be a lot more better.
It would be great. And there was lots of things that were frustrating reading this as an adult, reading a children's book. I was like, I want more description.
Yeah, it was
of
boring.
Nature.
To be clear, this was a boring read.
Yeah,
as an adult,
but it is for
But
kids.
as a kid, you're like, wow, it is for
But
kids.
I wanted more description. I wanted more drama.
Yeah.
So on the look back, in summary, I think this is still an important book for a reason, but it should be read with context, lots of historical context. And
I actually did find an article on harvard.edu. I don't know what this girl was writing on there for, but it was a mother reading this book to her daughter, and she kind of reflects on how she is going to explain. And her daughter was very young. Obviously, she was reading it to her. But so she kind of talks about how she contextualized some of it. And so I will put that in link in the show notes because I thought it was really interesting. Obviously, neither of us have kids, and so maybe we'll think differently, but I thought it was at least, a good place to start if you do come across these books with your kids, of ways to talk about it and put it in context that makes sense to little kids. So I'll put that link in the show notes, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, like you said, I don't have kids. The closest I've come to like that kind of scenario was I used to read the Berenstain Bears to my niece and nephew a lot. And the Berenstain Bears are actually, I don't know if he's called Papa Bear or Daddy Bear or whatever, but he is kind of a jerk and is kind of like sexist and gross and weird. And so I feel like sometimes I have to be like, sometimes I just felt uncomfortable like reading the story, like wondering, okay, how is that getting into your brain? Like,
yeah, I think that's the hard part because obviously I did not remember any of this. So it's like, how much does your little brain process, or how much can you kind of just gloss over and how much do you need to talk about? Like, I imagine that's very difficult if you are parenting a little guy, or a little girl. Anyways, should we do our taste test?
Yeah, let's do our taste test. Go running at your bread and molasses.
Yeah, let me go get mine. I'll be right back.
You ready?
Okay.
Ew. Okay,
I'm scared.
So I have cornbread and I have Dave's Killer Bread, white bread done right. So I think I'll take my first bite off of the cornbread since that's what they ate.
And I have a small sourdough slice.
All right.
It definitely has a smell.
It's uncooked and unbaked into something. Molasses has a sour kind of earthy smell.
Very much.
Cheers.
Okay, I'm scared. Cheers.
Okay.
That is not good. I feel so bad for them.
Oh, God.
It has the taste of cough syrup. Oh, where it's trying to be sweet, but it's really not. Yeah, I wouldn't do that again. I would not do that again.
Oh, my God. It's like, it just lingers.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm so glad I don't live on the prairie.
Amen. That's what I've learned. Having to build your own house with no tools.
Ugh.
Ma just gets a giant log dropped on her at one point, which we didn't talk about. And they're just like, oh, hope you're okay. No windows.
No toilets. No tampons. No Diva Cup.
I am not looking to live on the prairie. That's what I've learned.
All right.
Wow. That was
Well,
gross.
let's wrap up the conversation about Little House and maybe talk about some books we've read recently.
Okay. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
Sure, I'll
You go first.
So I recently read The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, which is a prequel to the Hunger Games books. It is set during the time of the 65 years before the events of the first Hunger Games book, during the 10th Hunger Games, and the main character of this book is President Coriolanus Snow before he was president. And he's an 18-year-old boy. He is a classic anti-hero. You feel very complicated emotions about him. You kind of watch his journey to try and get his family out of some pretty tough financial situations. He falls in love. It is complicated, and you feel complicated things about President Snow.
Interesting.
And you kind of watch, I think ultimately, you're following a story of somebody who had the choice to either be good or evil and chose, obviously, evil. That's no spoiler. if you
Right.
know anything about the Hunger Games. But it's really interesting because like during the time of like the 10th Hunger Games when this is taking place, it just took place in like a sports arena. It was hardly televised. There was no like, it was just very like basic, and it's just, it feels like you're reading history, but it's weird because this is set in like a dystopian future.
It's like fake history, yeah.
If you like, I would say if you don't really like Hunger Games that much, you probably won't like this. But if you're a Bill Hunger Games nerd and you are really into the books and movies, then you'd probably enjoy this. There's a movie coming out. They're making this into a movie that's coming out this November, and we will be deep diving Hunger Games before that time. But
Absolutely.
it's
Well, I need to read this because you've made me want to.
yeah. Now you've recently read Peeta's Games.
Yes. Oh
So,
my gosh.
it's complicated. He's a classic anti-hero, and you just don't know. There's times when you want to root for him, but you're like, but I know that if you succeed, you're going to end up being this horrible, horrible person because you already know the ending. So it's just, it's complicated, and it makes you think, and yeah, it's,
Sounds good.
and there are several pieces of like Hunger Games lore that are then like explained as particularly songs that are popular during the time of like the
Okay. Well, that's
Hunger Games
interesting.
books, so anyways, you have to read it.
I do. I'll let you guys know what I think. Definitely. I was looking for it on Libby as you were talking. Okay, so my recent book was called Chasing Vermeer by Blue Balliet. I don't know how you pronounce her last name. But I actually got this. So it's a children's book, but I thought it was fitting for this episode. And I got it because I work in a school district, and one of our schools was kind of giving away free books that were either old or kind of, had issues or, had been replaced. And this was one of them. And I'm like, I remember loving that book series as a kid, but I didn't really remember anything about it. So I just grabbed it because I'm like, well, it's free. And I read it, and I know now why I liked it so much as a kid. Because the main characters are like the weirdest kids imaginable. So as a weird kid, I'm sure I identified with them, but it's really cute. It's probably where my love of like mysteries and thrillers came from too, because it's like, basically the plot is that, a work of art by the painter Vermeer is stolen from a museum, and the thief sends this kind of anonymous ransom note to like, papers across the world, and is like, I have discovered that not all of the works of art that we attribute to Vermeer are actually by Vermeer.
Yes.
And there are like certain paintings, like you guys need to figure out which ones aren't really his, or I'm going to destroy this painting. He's like holding it hostage. And so these two little kids are kind of like trying to figure out the mystery. There's like little puzzles in the book. It's kind of weird. It's just a weird book, but I probably won't finish the series because it's a kid's book. But this book was really cute. I think if you have like a kind of weird kid who's into like puzzles, this would be a great recommendation for them because it was just really cute, and it kind of is written from that perspective. I think similar to Laurel Ingalls Wilder, but in a more interesting way, where like things happen to adults around you and you're trying to make sense of what's going on, but you're kind of a kid, so you don't really know. Like one of the kids' dads is like really distraught about something and you don't really know what's going on with him, but like she's like, oh, maybe he's involved somehow, and it's like he's probably just going through some adult stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just from that perspective. When you're a kid, you don't know what your parents are going through, and one little thing could look weird. So, I don't know. It was really cute. It was a good read. Very easy, but I definitely think if you have a kid, it would be a good recommendation.
That's fun. I love that.
It was fun.
I'd never read that, but I do remember like those little mysteries feeling so fun as a kid. And
Yeah.
how fitting for this
Feels like you
episode
figure something out.
to mention
Yeah.
like kids book. I love that.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening.